Hello 3D design makers, this is Mr. Lewick, and this video is going to show you some of the parameters that your design needs to follow for when it's going to be printed. Now, making your final design is going to take a few classes. Don't rush it. It takes some time. I don't want to say it's necessarily hard, but it takes some patience to get things exactly how you want them to be. All right, so first you need to get into Tinkercad. Make sure you log in with your Google account and make sure it's you. If you click on this icon in the top left right-hand corner, it should say your name there. All right, so you're going to make something new, most likely. So you click Create New Design, let it open up, and the first thing that I want you to do is to edit the grid. So this is the work plane, and there's a grid on top of it. Right now, it's in millimeters. We want to change it to inches. So if you click Edit Grid, and look for units and change to inches. All right, and then click Update Grid. All right, so it's in inches. It's about just a little bit under 8 inches total. If you count these big squares here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's 8 by 8, but it's not quite 8 inches by 8 inches. So the first thing that you need to remember when you're making your 3D design is the size that it needs to be. All right, so if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 down, it's about it is 1/4 of the total work plane. The design that you make needs to fit within 1/4. Now, there's a couple different ways of looking at it. This is a 4 by 4, but if you're thinking of making something like a nameplate that's a little longer, well, 1/4 of the plate would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 this way, and then 2 down. All right, so please think of it like that. Whatever you design needs to fit on 1/4 of the work plane. And as far as height, it can only be so high. So I'm going to show you how to figure out how high your design is. So let me just get a cylinder over here. I'm going to click and drag it and drop it. Okay, there's no way of knowing the height of this cylinder. So there's something called the ruler, which is over here on the right-hand side, ruler tool. When you click on that and come over here, you can place it on the work plane. All right, so now there are some numbers showing here, and it tells me how high it is. So this is 1 inch. Let me go this way so you can see. It's 1 inch high. If I make it taller, you can go up to 3 inches tall. So that tells you how tall things are. Let me lower it just a little bit. So that'd be 2 5/8. You can also change how high it is by clicking inside that box. And if I put 5 in there and then click off of it, it moves it to 5 inches tall. All right, but I don't quite want it that tall. So let me shrink that back down. All right, so whatever you make, the height of it cannot be higher than 3 inches. All right, so your total, the total limits for your design needs to be 1/4 of the work plane, and it can only be 3 inches tall, depending what you're going to make. If you're done using the ruler, you just exit out right here. Okay, so when you make your design, you can always move it once you're done to make sure it's on 1/4. But sometimes you can tell without having it in one of the quarters. Like I could build it here and I know, okay, that would follow the rules. It doesn't have to be built on 1/4. You can build it anywhere as long as the size is only, a 4 by 4 or a 2 by 4 in size. All right, so a few things that you might want to know. Let's say you're making something that holds something like a cup. So I need to hollow this out. If I click and drag at these corners, it makes it bigger, but sometimes it's hard to make it the exact shape. So if you press shift and drag, it will make it exact. Like it won't get really long one way or the other. Now I want to put something inside of that, a cylinder. That's a hole. So I'm going to copy this, and I Control C, Control V, and now I have an exact copy of it, but I want this to be a hole. And it needs to be a little bit smaller too. So I'm going to press shift and just shrink this up like this. And now I want to get it inside. This means you got to look at it from different ways. Let's see. Okay, I'm inside, kind of. And I want to raise it up. I click the cone. Remember your scroll wheel, you can zoom in and out. There we go. Okay. So you can kind of get the idea of what I'm doing. I can see where it is inside. I would want to center that, so I got to look at it from this view up here and figure out how to center it. Maybe something like that. All right, so now this, if this was to print, it would print what would basically be a cup. So it's got the cylinder, but it'd be hollowed out in the middle of it, because this grayed outlined cylinder is actually a hole. Now, something that's helpful is to group things, because maybe I want this to stick together. So if you left click and drag, it selects everything. All right. And then to group it, I click this shape here. It says group. All right. So now those are sticking together. I don't even see the hollow, but that helps if you're like making a face or something or a nameplate. You got two things together and you want them both to move at the same time. Select them all and then click group. And maybe you made something like, okay, I made this and now I do not want it to move at all. So you can lock it. So now this shape is locked. I can't move it, but that allows me to build other things around it. Maybe you want to put some text on that, and I'll need to use what's called wrapping text. So I clicked on basic shapes, scroll down to the bottom of shape generators, and scroll down until I see, here it is, text, and look, it's shaped like a circle. And to change the text, look over here, and you just type in what you want. I'm going to do my first name, click over here, and it will change it. Now, I have to get that on the cone, the cylinder. So this is going to take some work to look at it from different angles because there can't be any hole in between or any space between the two objects because that's not going to print. So if you're printing things that are connected, you want to smush them into each other a little bit. That way they will be together. This would not print. This would be a bad print. Something else you might want to make is like a name block or something with your name on it. So here I dragged over a shape and I made it like that. And here's my name. Now the colors, it will print just in one color, but changing different colors when you're making it on the work plane helps you see where stuff is. So I'm just going to make this a different color so it really shows up. All right, so I have to get this on top of that. I'm going to raise it up some. All right. We keep going to different views to see where it is. So I'm getting it there. Yep. You know what? I'm going to lock this red one. I don't want that to move. Okay, so now there's Mike. Looks like it's on it, but that would be a very bad print. It's got to go down, and I want to smush it into a little bit. Like this would be a good print. If it's just touching, well, not a good print. You got to smush it down into it a little bit. You know, if you're making a keychain or something like that, I'm going to go over like this, smush it in a little bit more. So this would be a good print. I probably want to center it up a little bit. And actually, I'm going to group it. Click, hold, drag, select everything, group. And now I am grouped. And I also, no, I wasn't grouped. Control Z because I had this locked. So I'm going to unlock that, select everything, group it, and now it all moves together. Perfect. This would probably be the best way to print it if I was to make it like this. And well, definitely that wouldn't print. But where I'm pushing out there, like that's not good. So definitely the way I had it would be a better way to print. When I Control Z, that undoes what I did. If you're adding shapes to your design, you got to make sure it's touching. Like this ball would not. And if it's just touching, that's going to be hard. It's a weak connection there, so you got to push it in a little bit like that. All right, that's it. Have fun, play around with it. And the last thing you need to know is how to name it. So up here in the top left, it always names it something silly. If I click on that, it highlights blue. Please name it with your first name, your last name, and your teacher's name as well. All right, I'm just going to pretend I'm in Mrs. Mertz, and you can just do Mertz. You don't have to add Mr. or Mrs. I need it to be simple for printing, so make sure you name it. Ones that are not named will probably not get printed. Ones that do not follow the guidelines in this video will not get printed. We have a whole bunch of print. You got to follow directions and have fun with it. All right, that's it. Go get them.